Left on the road after the beating, a cowboy found her, and everything changed. The night was colder than usual, and the wind carried a sharp edge that cut across the empty road. The streetlights flickered now and then, casting weak pools of yellow light on the asphalt. The town was quiet, almost asleep, but not entirely. Somewhere in the distance a dog barked, and a few stars shone faintly above. On the side of that long, lonely road, a young woman lay crumpled, her clothes torn and her face bruised. She shivered, partly from the cold and partly from fear. Her heart was still pounding, not just from the pain in her body, but from the fear that no one would find her tonight. She had tried to walk earlier, but her legs refused to obey. Every step sent sharp pains through her side, a reminder of the fight she had just endured. She pressed her hands against the ground to steady herself, her fingers scraping against the rough gravel. She wanted to cry, but tears felt heavy, almost impossible to shed. She had cried so much already that day, and yet the sadness clung to her like a shadow she could not escape. Her mind wandered back to earlier in the evening. She remembered the shouting, the anger, the feeling of helplessness. She had tried to defend herself, to reason, but words and strength had failed her. She had been beaten and then left on this empty road, as if her life did not matter. The thought of being abandoned made her chest tighten. The pain in her body was bad enough, but the emptiness of being left alone felt worse. She had always thought that if something terrible happened, someone would come, someone would help. But now she wondered if anyone cared at all. She tried to stay calm, breathing slowly in the cold night air. The wind whispered around her, carrying a faint smell of dust and grass. Every sound felt loud in the silence, the rustle of leaves, the distant bark, the soft hum of a car far away. She felt tiny, invisible, as if the world had forgotten she existed. She thought about her life, all the choices that had led her here. She remembered her family, who lived miles away, unaware of the danger she had faced. She wished she could call them, but her phone had been lost during the struggle. Even if it hadn't, she doubted she could have spoken. As she lay there, curled up for warmth, a sudden sound broke the quiet. The low rumble of an engine approached from far down the road. She froze, unsure if the sound was a blessing or another danger. Her mind raced. Who could it be at this hour? Was it someone passing by, or was it another threat? Her body trembled as the vehicle drew nearer, the headlights cutting through the darkness, bright and harsh. She shielded her eyes with her hand, squinting to see. The truck slowed as it came closer, stopping a few feet from where she lay. The engine idled softly, and the door opened with a gentle creak. A man stepped out. He was tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in worn jeans and a leather jacket. A cowboy hat shaded his face, but his eyes were clear and calm. He knelt down carefully, keeping a safe distance as if he understood her fear. His voice was soft, steady, and kind. "Hey, are you okay?" he asked. She wanted to scream, to tell him to leave, to protect herself, but no sound came. Her throat was dry, her voice trapped inside. The man's gentle tone, the calm in his movements, made her hesitate. She wanted to believe him, but she did not trust easily. Fear had taught her to expect the worst from everyone. Still, something about his presence was different. He did not look angry or threatening. He did not carry a weapon. He just looked concerned. "Can you move?" he asked again, kneeling closer. She shook her head weakly, unable to speak. He nodded slowly, as if he understood. "It's okay, I can help you," he said. He reached into the truck and came back with a blanket, laying it gently over her shoulders. The warmth of it was comforting, almost shocking after the cold wind. She felt the shiver in her body slow a little. She tried to smile, but it only became a small twitch of her lips. He did not rush her. He just stayed there, close enough to help, far enough to give her space. After a few minutes, he asked, "Do you want me to take you somewhere safe?" Her mind hesitated. She wanted to say yes, but fear and pride made her hesitate. What if this was a trap? What if trusting someone again only led to more pain? Her body ached, and the thought of staying on the road all night was unbearable. Slowly she nodded, barely enough for him to see. He smiled, but gently, not too bright, not too eager. He extended his hand to help her stand. She took it cautiously, her hand trembling. With his support, she rose to her feet. Every movement hurt, every step felt heavy, but with him by her side, she managed to move toward the truck. He walked slowly, matching her pace, careful not to overwhelm her. Every now and then, he offered a word of encouragement. "Almost there," he said softly. "You're doing good." When they reached the truck, he opened the passenger door for her. She climbed in, wincing as her injured body protested. He got in on the driver's side, giving her time to settle. The engine started and the truck rolled slowly down the road. The warmth from the heater spread through the cabin, and she sank into the seat, letting herself relax slightly for the first time since the attack. She did not speak, but her eyes met his in a quiet acknowledgement. She was still scared, but for the first time that night she felt a glimmer of hope. The cowboy drove in silence, giving her space to collect herself. The road stretched ahead, lined with dark trees and open fields. Every now and then he glanced at her, his eyes careful and kind, making sure she was all right. She thought about asking him name, but words felt too heavy. Instead, she focused on the soft hum of the engine, the warmth spreading through her hands, the feeling of not being alone. She had been left on the road, abandoned, but now someone had found her. Someone had cared enough to stop. Minutes passed, then longer stretches of time, and the silence became a comfort. The cowboy spoke only when necessary, asking simple questions in a quiet tone. "Do you want water?" he asked. "Are you hungry?" He did not push for answers, only offered small gestures of care. She realized that this was the first time in hours, maybe days, that she felt like she could breathe. The fear was still there, a shadow in the back of her mind, but it was no longer crushing. Someone had seen her, and that made all the difference. Finally, the truck slowed and turned onto a narrow dirt path. Ahead was a small farmhouse with soft lights glowing in the windows. He parked the truck and looked at her. "We're here," he said. "You'll be safe now." She looked at the house, her body tired, her mind still wary. But the calmness in his voice made her believe, at least a little, that safety was possible. She nodded, feeling the weight of exhaustion settle on her. The cowboy helped her out of the truck carefully. She leaned on him as they walked toward the door. The warmth from inside the house was inviting, the smell of wood and cooking food comforting. She realized she had not felt this safe in a long time. He opened the door and the light spilled over them. "Come on in," he said softly. She stepped inside, her body trembling slightly but her heart feeling a little lighter. For the first time that night, she let herself take a deep breath. She was still scared, still in pain, but she was no longer alone. The road, the dark night, the fear, it was behind her now. She had been found, and everything, even if just a little, felt like it could change. The house was quiet, but it felt safe. Warm light filled the room, and the smell of something cooking in the kitchen made her stomach growl faintly. She still trembled as she sat on the worn sofa, wrapped in a thick blanket the cowboy had given her. Her body ached from the beating, and even the smallest movement sent sharp reminders of the pain. She pressed her hands against her knees and took slow, careful breaths. The cowboy watched her for a moment, his expression calm and patient. He did not rush her, he never had. He knelt down a few feet away from her and spoke softly. "Do you want some water?" he asked. His voice was steady, gentle, the kind that could be trusted. She nodded slowly, grateful that he did not press her to speak. He handed her a glass, and she took it with trembling hands. The water was cool and soothing, and for the first time in hours, she felt a little of her fear loosen. "You don't have to talk if you don't want to," he said after a pause. "Just drink some water. We'll figure everything out." She looked at him, and for a brief moment she felt something she had not felt in a long time, hope. She wanted to believe him, but fear had trained her not to trust anyone easily. Still, his calm presence made her want to try. She took another sip, feeling the water go down her throat, steadying her. He stayed nearby, watching her carefully but quietly. After a few minutes, he got up and went to the kitchen. She could hear him moving around, the soft clatter of utensils and the low hum of the stove. There was something comforting in the normalcy of it, the simple sounds of someone taking care of a home. She let herself relax a little, though the tension in her body did not completely go away. The memories of the fight, of being left alone on the road, still pressed against her mind. Finally, he returned with a small plate of food. He set it down in front of her gently. "Eat when you're ready," he said. "No rush." She looked at the plate. The food was simple bread, some eggs, a little fruit, but it smelled good. Her stomach had been empty for hours, but the thought of eating made her uneasy. She picked up a piece of bread and took a small bite. The flavor was basic, but it was enough to remind her that she was alive, that she could still care for herself in small ways. As she ate slowly, she watched him move around the room. He did not hurry, did not look impatient. He cleaned up, put away dishes, and then sat back in a chair, keeping his eyes on her. There was a quiet strength in his presence, the kind that made a person feel safe without needing to say much. She realized she had not felt safe like this for a long time, not since before everything had gone wrong in her life. After a few bites of food, she finally spoke, her voice soft and hesitant. "Why are you helping me?" she asked. The question hung in the air, heavy with suspicion. She had learned that kindness often had strings attached, that help could be dangerous. She did not expect an answer that would satisfy her fear. He looked at her calmly, without offense or judgment. "Because it's the right thing to do," he said simply. "No one should be left out there alone when they're hurt. You deserve help, that's all." His words were plain, but they carried a weight she had not expected. They were not promises he could not keep, not words meant to manipulate. They were truth, and that truth was strange and comforting to her. She wanted to believe him, but old habits die hard. Her eyes filled with tears, not just from pain, but from the relief that someone had seen her suffering and cared enough to act. She tried to swallow the lump in her throat, but it was heavy. The cowboy noticed, offering a small, understanding smile. "It's okay," he said softly. "Let it out if you need to." She did quietly, her tears falling onto the blanket, her body shaking with the release. He did not move closer unless she wanted him to. He respected her space, and that made her trust him even more. Hours passed like that. She ate a little, drank water, and allowed herself to rest. The cowboy stayed nearby, never hovering, never pushing. At one point, he brought a hot water bottle for her, helping her place it gently on her bruised side. The warmth seeped into her muscles, loosening the tightness that had kept her rigid. She realized that for the first time that night, she could let her guard down, even just a little. As she rested, she began to speak in small fragments, telling him pieces of what had happened. Not all at once, not in full detail, just the things her heart could handle. She told him her name, her town, a little about her life. He listened quietly, never interrupting, never judging. He nodded sometimes, offering gentle words like, "I understand," or "that makes sense." His patience was a balm, something she had not known she needed. Slowly, she realized she could ask questions too. "Do you always help people you don't know?" she asked cautiously. He chuckled softly, a low, warm sound. "Not always," he admitted. "But when someone is in trouble and I can do something, I try. It's just what I do." She nodded, feeling the honesty in his voice. She realized he was not pretending, not putting on a show. He was just being who he was, a person willing to help when it mattered most. The night went on, and her body began to feel a little lighter. Her breathing became steadier, the tension in her shoulders easing. The cowboy suggested she try to rest properly, and this time she agreed. He helped her get a blanket on the sofa so she could lie down more comfortably. "I'll be right here," he said. "If you need anything, just call." She nodded, her eyes heavy, and for the first time that night she closed them fully, allowing herself a few hours of sleep. When she woke, it was still dark outside, but the light in the room made her feel safe. The cowboy was already awake, sitting nearby with a cup of coffee. He offered her one and she took it, savoring the warmth. She realized she had slept for hours, something she had not done in a long time. Her body still ached, but she felt stronger than the night before. She looked at him, a mix of gratitude and curiosity in her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered. I don't know what I would have done without you." He smiled gently. "You don't have to thank me," he said. "You're alive, and that's what matters. We'll get through this together." She felt a small spark of hope rise inside her. For the first time, she believed that things could be better, that she could recover from the fear and pain that had haunted her. Over the next few hours, he helped her clean up a little, gave her fresh clothes, and made her more food. She ate slowly, careful but appreciative. As they worked together in small, simple ways, a quiet bond began to form between them. She realized that trust was possible, even after everything she had been through. She realized that kindness could exist without strings, without hidden motives. And she realized that she could survive this, not alone, but with someone who cared. By morning, the sun began to rise, casting soft light through the windows. The shadows of the night retreated, and with them, some of her fear. She sat by the window, watching the world wake up. She still had a long road ahead, still had scars that would take time to heal, but for the first time, she did not feel completely alone. The cowboy stood nearby, watching her with the same calm patience that had guided her through the night. She turned to him and asked quietly, Will I be safe now?" He nodded. "Yes, you're safe here," he said. "I'll make sure nothing bad happens to you." She felt the tension in her chest ease a little more. The road, the beating, the fear, it was behind her now. For the first time, she believed in safety, in trust, and in hope. It was a beginning, a first step toward healing. And though the night had been long and terrifying, she realized that being found, being cared for, was a chance to start over. The cowboy had not just rescued her body from the cold road. He had shown her that someone could care about her. That kindness existed even in the darkest hours. And in that quiet farmhouse, with the light of the rising sun and the warmth of another human being nearby, she allowed herself to believe that life could change. And maybe, just maybe, it could be good again. The days that followed were quiet but full of small, important moments. The young woman stayed at the cowboy's home, slowly regaining her strength. Every morning, the sun rose over the fields, painting the sky with soft shades of orange and pink. The light felt like a gentle promise, a reminder that the darkness of the night had passed, and that each day brought a chance to start anew. Her body was still sore from the beating, and every movement reminded her of the pain she had endured. But now pain was paired with care, and the warmth of the house and the presence of the cowboy made it easier to endure. He never rushed her, never pressured her to do more than she could. When she struggled to stand or walk, he offered a steady hand and encouraging words. "Take your time," he would say. "There's no hurry." His patience gave her the courage to keep trying, even when her own confidence wavered. At first, she stayed mostly in the house, resting and eating. He prepared simple meals for her, eggs, bread, fruits, and vegetables. And each time he offered food, he did so gently, without making her feel weak or dependent. She learned to eat slowly, appreciating the warmth of the food and the kindness behind it. Small things like the smell of cooking or the taste of fresh bread became comforting signals that life could feel normal again. He also helped her care for her body in other ways. She had bruises and aches that needed attention, and he showed her simple ways to apply warmth and gentle pressure to soothe the pain. When her muscles felt stiff, he suggested stretching slowly, guiding her with patience. His careful guidance made her realize that she did not have to face recovery alone, and that asking for help was not a weakness. As the days passed, she began to venture outside. The fields surrounding the house were vast and green, dotted with cattle and horses. The air smelled of earth and grass, fresh and clean. She took small walks at first, leaning on him for support. Each step was a small victory, a way to reclaim control over her body and her life. The simple act of walking through the fields, feeling the wind against her face, brought a sense of freedom she had not felt in a long time. The cowboy taught her about the animals on the ranch. They tended to the horses, feeding and grooming them together. She was nervous at first, afraid of making mistakes, but he guided her with calm encouragement. "It's okay," he said when she fumbled with the reins. "We'll take it slow. You'll get it." She realized that the animals, like the cowboy, offered a form of healing. Caring for something else, even something small, gave her purpose and reminded her of her own strength. Their conversations grew longer as she began to trust him more. She told him fragments of her past, her family, her dreams, the difficulties she had faced. She did not share everything, not yet, but he listened patiently, never interrupting or judging. Sometimes he would share stories from his own life, simple tales of growing up on the ranch, of early mornings and hard work, of challenges he had overcome. They did not compare hardships. Instead, the sharing created a connection, a bridge between their experiences. Evenings became a quiet, comforting routine. They would sit on the porch, watching the sun dip below the horizon. The sky turned shades of red and purple, and the first stars began to appear. She often stayed silent during these moments, simply taking in the beauty of the world around her. The cowboy did not pressure her to speak. Sometimes he would quietly mention how the day had gone, or point out a bird or a distant hill, but mostly he let her thoughts roam freely. She realized that peace could exist alongside pain, and that beauty could exist alongside scars. Sleep remained a delicate challenge. Memories of the night she had been left on the road sometimes haunted her dreams, and she would wake suddenly, heart racing. Each time it happened, the cowboy was there. He did not scold her for waking him or tell her to just forget it. Instead, he would sit quietly with her, letting her breathe and regain control. Sometimes he would place a gentle hand on her shoulder or offer a reassuring word. "It's okay," he would say. "You're safe now. Nothing can hurt you here." His presence became a steady anchor, calming her fear and helping her slowly reclaim peaceful sleep. Gradually, she started to feel more like herself. She laughed quietly at small things, a funny story the cowboy told, a playful movement of a horse, the sight of a bird landing near the house. Laughter felt strange at first, almost foreign, but it also felt wonderful. It reminded her that life still had moments of joy, that happiness could exist even after darkness. She began to dream again, imagining a life where she was safe, strong, and independent. One day, as they were working with the horses, she stumbled slightly and the cowboy caught her. His steady hand and calm eyes reassured her. "You're stronger than you think," he said. She looked at him, realizing that she truly believed him. Each day of care, each act of patience, had shown her that she could survive and even thrive. Recovery was not just about healing the body. It was about healing the heart and mind, and slowly she felt both strengthening. They also began to talk about the future, gently and carefully. He never pushed her to make decisions, but he encouraged her to think about what she wanted. "You've been through a lot," he said one afternoon. "What do you want for yourself?" She paused, thinking. For the first time, she considered her own wishes, separate from fear or survival. She realized she wanted stability, safety, and a chance to live without constant worry. She wanted to feel strong, to take control of her own life. Through these conversations, a bond deepened between them. It was not just about care or protection. It was about trust, respect, and understanding. He never tried to take over her life or tell her what to do. Instead, he offered guidance and support, allowing her to grow at her own pace. She began to understand that healthy connections could exist, that kindness did not have to come with danger. She began to believe that people could be good and that trust could be rebuilt, one careful step at a time. She also began to regain confidence in herself. Small accomplishments felt monumental: a day without pain, a walk through the fields, completing a task with the animals. Each success reminded her that she was capable, that she had strength within her that she had forgotten. The cowboy celebrated these victories with her, never making her feel small or weak. His quiet pride in her progress became a source of motivation, encouraging her to keep moving forward. One evening, as the sun set, she stood at the edge of the field, looking at the wide horizon. The world felt vast and full of possibilities. The cowboy joined her, standing silently beside her. She did not speak immediately. Instead, she let the wind brush against her face and felt the ache in her body ease slightly. Finally, she whispered, "I think I'm going to be okay." He looked at her with a soft, approving smile. "I know you will be," he said. "You're stronger than you realize." For the first time, she felt a sense of peace she had not known in years. She realized that recovery was not about erasing the past, but about moving forward despite it. The night she had been left on the road, the fear and pain she had endured, it would always be a part of her story. But it did not have to define her future. She had found safety, trust, and kindness, and with each passing day, she felt more capable of living fully again. The days continued like this, each one building on the last. She worked with the animals, helped with small chores around the house, and gradually reconnected with the world outside the walls of the home. Each step, each effort, strengthened her body and mind. She learned that healing was not instant. It was a journey, a careful progression of small victories and quiet moments of trust. By the end of part 3, she had grown noticeably stronger. She could walk longer distances, care for the animals more confidently, and face her fears without collapsing into despair. The bond between her and the cowboy had deepened into something meaningful, a connection based on trust, patience, and mutual respect. She had begun to see life not as a series of threats and abandonment, but as a path she could navigate with hope and strength. The past was still there, as memories and scars often are, but she no longer felt trapped by it. She had someone by her side who believed in her, who offered support without judgment, and who showed her that human kindness was real. And for the first time in a long while, she believed that she could not only survive but thrive, that she could build a life filled with hope, strength, and a sense of belonging. The days turned into weeks, and the young woman could feel herself changing in ways she had never thought possible. She woke up each morning with more energy than the day before, her body stronger, her mind clearer. The fear that had once ruled her life had begun to shrink, replaced by a quiet determination to take control of her own story. Each step she took, each small task she completed, reminded her that she was capable, that she could survive and thrive. The cowboy remained a steady presence in her life. He never pushed her to be more than she could handle, but he encouraged her to challenge herself gently. "You don't have to rush anything," he said one morning as she practiced walking across the uneven field, "but every small step counts." She smiled at him, feeling a deep sense of gratitude. It wasn't just his help that mattered, it was his belief in her. For the first time, someone had trusted her to grow and heal without judgment or expectation. She began taking more responsibility around the ranch, learning how to care for the animals on her own. Feeding the chickens, brushing the horses, and collecting eggs became daily routines. At first, each task felt like a challenge, but she persisted. She discovered a quiet pride in her work, a satisfaction that came from seeing results from her own effort. The cowboy would watch her sometimes, nodding approvingly, and she felt a warmth in her chest from the quiet encouragement. With each passing day, she felt her confidence increase. She started exploring the nearby woods and fields, sometimes alone, sometimes with the cowboy by her side. The fresh air, the sounds of birds, and the rustling of the trees reminded her that the world was wide and full of life. She began to enjoy these walks, feeling the sun on her face and the wind in her hair. They were moments of freedom she had not known in years, and they reminded her that life could be simple, beautiful, and safe. One morning, while sitting on the porch sipping tea, she spoke quietly to the cowboy. "I never thought I'd feel like this again," she said. "I thought the fear would never go away." He looked at her with understanding. "Fear leaves when you give yourself a chance to grow. You've already come so far, you're stronger than you realize." She smiled, feeling the truth in his words. She had already begun to reclaim her life, piece by piece, step by step. They continued to work together, building a routine that felt comfortable and natural. She helped repair fences, carried supplies, and tended to the garden. Each task required effort, but also brought a sense of accomplishment. She began to feel capable not only of surviving but of living fully. The physical activity strengthened her body, and the quiet rhythms of the ranch healed her mind. She realized that she could enjoy life again, that the world held more than pain and fear. The cowboy never left her to face challenges alone. When a horse was difficult or a fence needed heavy lifting, he guided her patiently, never doing the work for her but always being there to help. This partnership taught her that trust was not about dependence but about support. She learned that asking for help was a sign of strength, not weakness, and that leaning on someone when necessary could create bonds that were safe and meaningful. She also began to reflect on her past, not to relive the pain, but to understand it and move forward. She thought about the night she had been left on the road, about the fear and the hopelessness she had felt. Those memories still hurt, but they no longer controlled her. She had faced them, survived, and now was building a life where such fear had no place. The cowboy had shown her that safety and care existed, and in that knowledge she found courage. As she grew stronger, she began thinking about her future beyond the ranch. She wanted to live independently, to make her own choices, and to have a life that was truly hers. The cowboy supported these thoughts, encouraging her to consider opportunities that interested her. "You can do anything you want," he said. "You've proven you're capable. The world is open to you." His words were not pressure, they were permission, allowing her to dream freely. She decided to take steps toward independence. She began looking for work in the nearby town, seeking something that would give her stability and purpose. The cowboy helped her with practical matters, like preparing for interviews and organizing her documents, but he never forced decisions. She learned that being strong also meant taking responsibility for her own life, and each small achievement reinforced her confidence. Meanwhile, their bond continued to grow, subtle and steady. They shared meals, stories, and quiet moments on the porch. Laughter became more frequent, and the fear that had once dominated her life had been replaced by comfort and trust. She realized that connection did not have to come with danger, that kindness could exist in its purest form. And as she continued to heal, she began to feel capable of forming meaningful relationships, built on respect and understanding. One evening, after a long day of work on the ranch, she sat on the porch watching the sunset. The sky was painted with soft shades of pink, orange, and purple. She felt a profound sense of peace, a feeling she had not known in years. The cowboy sat beside her, his presence quiet but steady. She turned to him and said softly, "I think I'm ready for the next step. I want to live my own life, but I also want you to be part of it." He looked at her, a gentle smile on his face. "I'd like that," he said. "But this life is yours. Whatever you choose, I'll support you." She felt a warmth in her chest, a sense of belonging and freedom all at once. She realized that she had not just survived, she had grown, healed, and discovered her strength. The days that followed were filled with preparation and hope. She organized her belongings, planned her work schedule, and set goals for herself. Each action was a declaration of independence, a promise to herself that she would live fully and freely. The cowboy continued to guide and support her, a steady presence who celebrated her victories and encouraged her through challenges. Finally, the day came when she felt truly ready to take the next step. She stood on the road near the ranch, looking out at the horizon. The night she had been left alone seemed like a distant memory, though it would always be a part of her story. She felt a mixture of emotions: gratitude, courage, hope, and a quiet excitement for the life she was about to live. The cowboy rode beside her on his horse, as he had so many times before. But this time, she did not lean on him for support. She walked steadily, confident in her own strength. She realized that the journey had been about more than recovery. It had been about reclaiming her life, her voice, and her confidence. Every step she took was a testament to her courage, to the fact that she had survived and would continue to thrive. As they rode together, she felt the wind against her face and the warmth of the sun on her skin. The road ahead was open, full of possibilities. She knew there would still be challenges, but she also knew she was capable of facing them. She had learned that life could be harsh, but it could also be beautiful, full of trust, kindness, and hope. She glanced at the cowboy and he nodded gently, as if understanding all her thoughts. She felt a quiet gratitude for the man who had found her on that lonely road, who had given her safety, care, and a chance to heal. But she also felt pride in herself, in her own strength, resilience, and courage. She had not just been rescued. She had grown into someone who could walk her own path, someone who could face the world with confidence. They continued down the road, the landscape stretching endlessly around them. She felt the past slipping behind her, not forgotten but no longer controlling her life. The road ahead was hers to shape, filled with hope, possibility, and the freedom she had fought to reclaim. She realized that life was not about avoiding pain, but about learning to move forward, to trust again, and to find beauty even after darkness. By the time the sun dipped low in the sky, she felt a sense of completion and a new beginning. She had survived the worst, found safety, healed, and grown stronger than she had ever imagined. And as she looked at the cowboy riding beside her, she understood that she had discovered something even more valuable than recovery. She had found hope, trust, and the courage to embrace a new life. The road stretched ahead, wide and full of promise. She walked forward with a steady heart, ready to face whatever came next. She knew that the journey would continue, but she also knew that she was no longer the same person who had been left on the road, alone and afraid. She had been found, she had been cared for, and she had discovered her own strength. Everything had changed, and for the first time, she was ready to fully live.